In 1984, just as Hasbro, Marvel Comics, and Sunrise Entertainment were working together to bring Transformers to the world, their biggest fear wasn't guns or seeker jets or transforming robots that devoured planets, it was angry parents. After all, this whole idea of creating a half-hour cartoon that was essentially a toy commercial to get kids to beg for these hot new toys was still risky, untried territory, and parents were wary. So the last thing they wanted was little Billy complaining, "Oh my gosh, this cartoon scared me, Mommy." Call up and complain. So as a result, these companies worked very deliberately to create the most ineffective, incompetent, non-threatening villains ever seen in a cartoon series. Well, maybe not the most. Gargamel from Smurfs was pretty ridiculous. But for cartoons aimed at this age range, Decepticons were surprisingly incompetent. And I mean even more so than the stuff you'd see in other cartoons and TV shows and movies. Sure, you can point out that Cobra in G.I. Joe never really killed anybody. You can talk about how the stormtroopers in Star Wars never ever hit their targets. Of course we know all that stuff. But when you really think about it, the Decepticons were deliberately designed to be over-the-top, non-threatening villains. Let's process. First of all, let's keep in mind the fact that the Decepticons weren't even trying to take over the world or to harm humans in any way. While they didn't value human life, humans were more or less incidental to them. They were just trying to get enough energon fuel to get home. That was the goal. Theoretically, they could accomplish that without hurting a single human being and humans never being bothered at all. On top of that, they waged almost all of their battles in the first 2 years in a nondescript desert where there was no human civilization nearby and only the occasional utility worker to worry about. On top of that, they were so busy sabotaging each other that they could never accomplish a single evil scheme. And even beyond all of that, when you really think about it, the Decepticons were the more likable characters. They really were. Starscream in his endless hubris trying to overthrow Megatron was kind of adorable. It was probably the most fun subplot ongoing throughout those early seasons of the show. Soundwave being the deadpan nerd was kind of amusing.
We can concentrate the energy into energon cubes.
Even Megatron could be so over the top he was fun, and wow, when we got to rumble in Frenzy,
you and what on you maxi turkey?
Those guys were just a ball of fun. Having villains that are more fun than the good guys, that was kind of unheard of, right? Don't get me wrong, Optimus Prime was an upstanding hero who fought for good and showed us the way. That made him a great teacher. But it wasn't until Transformers the movie that he actually did anything cool. He wasn't a guy I wanted to hang out with. He was just a character that I knew to listen to, who was giving the right message at the end of the day. But the Decepticons were the fun ones. Beyond even that, think about which toys were chosen to be the Decepticons. Sure, Megatron is a gun. A gun might be a very scary thing to a kid. But think about the robot faces. Megatron had an expressive mouth. The Seeker Jets had expressive mouths. Optimus Prime is one with a face shield that guarded his emotions entirely. Therefore, you knew when Megatron or Starscream were upset, a kid could read their emotions easily and therefore feel a little safer around them. Imagine had Optimus Prime been a villain. That expressionless face would have been terrifying to a small kid. And Soundwave had that expressionless face, but he also had no emotions. He was flat the entire time and therefore safe. The Decepticons were designed in so many levels to be non-threatening. They looked just like the Autobots too, by the way. They were just as human-like in their characteristics as the Autobots were. Now, you might be saying that I'm pulling this out of nowhere, that I'm making an argument that maybe isn't fair or isn't right. How do I know that Hasbro, Marvel, and Sunrise were really trying to make the Decepticons non-threatening? Well, it's easy. See, if you remember, and I'm sure you do know if you've been watching this channel, Transformers were not original designs. They were toys taken from a variety of Japanese series, primarily Diaclone and Microman Microchange. Well, Diaclone already had its own set of villains, ready for use, but they were terrifying. In Diaclone, the villains were these alien invaders known as the Waruda Army. And the Waruda were, first of all, insects, not humanoids. They had expressionless, emotionless faces you couldn't read, and other than the fact they were unyielding and terrifying in their desire to conquer and destroy, we didn't really understand them. They were totally alien to us, which made them menacing, which made them horrifying, and might have made them too much for an American 1980s cartoon aimed at little kids. As an adult today, I think the Waruda are awesome. I think they're so much more fun to imagine as antagonists and villains, as opposed to the largely incompetent Decepticons who didn't get in any way scary or intimidating until the 1986 movie. I mean, at that point, obviously, they're pretty intense. But the Waruda were a whole other level. And so today what I want to show you is a toy that, on some level, I really think should have been on shelves in 1984 along with the Autobots as the true rivals. I want to show you the original Waruda, the main bad guy, the original villain before we ever had a Megatron. Today I'm going to show you WARUDEROS. Let's head to the work table and see how this guy works. To start off with, while most of the G1 Transformers, especially the 1984 line, were made up of vehicle-to-robot or item-to-robot Transformers, WARUDEROS is a combiner, which is something Transformers didn't see until 1985. This toy was originally designed as one of the early wave Diaclone toys. Before the car robots had even been invented, WARUDEROS hit the shelves in 1981. And as a result, it's more from the original Super Robot line of robot toys in Japan, as opposed to being a legitimate, actual, straight Transformer, and yet it does a lot of transforming. It's a really cool toy. It's beautiful to look at. So I'm going to walk you through what these vehicles do, how they merge together, and why this toy is frankly awesome, and why it's sad that it wasn't included in the original G1 line. By the way, folks, if you think that Diaclone is just earlier versions of the G1 Transformers, oh boy, you're missing out. Some of the earliest Diaclone releases were more fun, more imaginative, bigger in both actual scale and in concept than what we actually got as part of the Transformers line, but they didn't fit the vision of ordinary household objects and vehicles. They were much more space age and wild imaginative, and certainly 3 insect-like vehicles that combined into one large insect robot didn't fit what G1 Transformers were supposed to be originally in 1984. But let's take a look at them. So we have 3 different vehicles, and here's our first one right here. You can see it looks like some sort of little stingy insect. It's got those little legs I really like. The chrome is plastic. There is no die cast in this toy. I am using the chronofoam version, which is in 1983 and 1984. Takara did briefly bring these toys directly to the U.S. market to try to sell them. It didn't work very well. As far as I know, the chronofoam toys are the same, other than having the missiles changed to meet American safety standards. I don't think the original Diaclone version had any die cast in it either, but it's possible. Very hard to track down today. Like any of the original heroic Autobots, and some of the Decepticons, you can actually fit a pilot in here. I don't have the original Waruda pilots. They're extremely rare and expensive these days. So I'm going to use some Type 1 Dionauts instead. Still pretty rare and impressive. But I have these guys. I don't have Waruda aliens. So he's going to fit right in there. There he goes. Close that on him. Put this aside for a second. It can launch missiles as well. I don't have the missiles, but that's how they would launch. This is my favorite piece right here. This one not only can launch missiles off the front. Again, this is the Americanized chronoform version. The missiles would have shot a lot further and more impressively in the original Diaclone version. This one, the cockpit, holds 2 pilots instead, which is a cool choice. Again, just a little bit alien in their approach to things. Why would you ever have 2 pilots piloting a vehicle together? Well, I suppose if you have an insect like hive mind, that might make sense. But it certainly establishes this as a very different kind of vehicle, and also with a pretty compelling play space to work with. You could tell stories in that thing. It's kind of fun, right? So we'll close that. The only part of this vehicle system I don't like is this piece right here. It's supposed to be a Scorpion/tank. You can launch missiles from here as well, I think. Actually, yeah, the launchers are right here. You can launch missiles from right there. It's just not much to look at, and it's clearly going to become his feet. This is the only part that's a little unimaginative. I'm going to pilot in there as well. And he's in. All right, we got a pilot in there too. Cool. All right, so now that we have our 3, transforming them is really satisfying. In the style of the original G1 toys, it's complex enough that it's incredibly tactilely satisfying, but it's not overly complex. A kid could do this without much trouble. You know, unlike, I always malign the Masterpiece toys today and make people mad. It's not the Masterpiece toys are bad guys. It's that it takes you a good 20 minutes to do a transformation and a lot of memorization or consulting the manual. If I'm playing with my toys, I just want to do it effortlessly and quickly. You know, not with a touch of one button, but it shouldn't be work. It should be fun. Anyway, I digress. Let's do the transformation. So we're going to begin with our little scorpion piece right here. And what we're going to do is we are going to tuck in these pieces, fold this back. There we go. And then we'll kind of lock him in there and then do this. And we have feet. Now, of course, much like a lot of the G1 original 1984 and 1985 Transformers, these feet are useless. They're not going to separate. It's more for aesthetic look than it is for actual practicality. If they did do a Masterpiece version of this, I'm sure the feet would separate. And by the way, they did do a version of WARUDEROS for the Diaclone relaunch, but the toy looks extremely different from what you're about to see. It's really not the same thing at all. All right, moving on. My favorite piece also is my favorite part of the transformation. What we're going to do here is first tuck in these wings, tuck in these little legs, and then this part right here, oops, these come out a lot. Let's just remove them for the transformation. They don't need to come out, but they kind of get in the way. We're going to do that. And then we have a torso section, which is going to latch on right here. Apply a little bit of pressure. And it's locked in. Perfect. Let's next bring in this piece right here. And this is also a lot of fun. What we're going to do is, again, tuck in the legs, tuck in the wings, fold this over, and we have a head. We're going to just drop the head right in here, and it should fit perfectly. It does. Here's why this is really clever and fun. When you go into the actual chest, what you're going to see, this is a really clever design, is all the cockpits lined up. We actually have all 3 pilots alongside each other. One is behind this blue shield you can't get to, but it's still a really cool aesthetic idea. I really like that. However, unfortunately, the 4th pilot ended up in the butt crack. He's back here. He's being secured by this little piece, but kind of got left out in the smelly area. No fun at all. We'll give him back his claws and make him a little more menacing. By the way, while he doesn't have a lot of posability, these arms do have elbows. Of course, you can do that if you want him to. And I want to get a little closer just so you can take in the beauty of this toy. Once again, it's the same spirit, same designers as those G1 Heroic Autobots from 84 and 85. It's not overly complex, but man, is it gorgeous. And really take in for a moment just how otherless, just how other it looks. This toy does not look in any way human. It has no emotions you can read on that face. If you saw a real-life version of this that was towering over you, it would be so much more terrifying than a Decepticon. The Waruda were a whole other level. I should mention, too, the G1 Decepticons were later Waruda releases. I think they don't have something this toy does. They're missing some of the grandeur, some of the menace. This was the main one. This was the big one. And he's beautiful and terrifying, Maybe he doesn't have quite the same Transformers feel aesthetically, but that was very much the point of the Waruda. They were supposed to look different, alien, menacing, and unrelenting. Don't take it as me hating on the Decepticons. They were my favorite part of the show growing up. They were fun. They were surprisingly human. They were the ones sometimes I kind of got more excited to see. And yet, as an adult today, when I try to apply my imagination at all to these really cool toys I look at, and yes, play with too, this guy doesn't impress me too much as a villain. Yeah, he had some cool moments in Transformers the movie. Galvatron was at least insane and therefore fun in that way too, but there's something to be said about the villain you don't understand. By the way, look how much bigger he is. The villain whose motives are alien to you, whose emotions are alien to you, the villain you can't understand as he's annihilating you, that's the guy I'm fascinated by. So this is not me saying there shouldn't be Decepticons or you shouldn't like Decepticons, but maybe there's room in your heart, your imagination, and your imaginary battles for some Waruda too. Please check out Waruderos. He is not an easy toy to track down, but he is so worth it. There were other Waruda toys too. Some were even more exotic than this. At the very least, give your Insecticons a second thought. They're a lot more menacing and fun than we often treat them as. By the way, they're depicted in the cartoon, but this guy, oh man, look at that guy. Terrifyingly cool. Waruderos. Early Diaclone had so much to offer that we miss. Look beyond Transformers at what came before, what came after, what came during, and keep checking out this channel to find out more about them. Visit us at classiccomics.org too. That's where you'll find me every single day of the week. It's my home away from home. I've been a member there for over 10 years now. It doesn't cost anything. We don't want your money. We just want your company. We're looking for friendly nerds who really want to engage and have conversations that are deeper than those quick replies you do on social media and YouTube comment sections. Get to really know people, get in meaningful, long conversations, make friends for life at classiccomics.org. Also check out our other videos. We're approaching almost 40 Beyond Transformers episodes now, which is pretty darn cool. Hit like and subscribe if you're enjoying, guys. It helps us out tremendously. We also have the CCF In-Depth podcast. We've got a new episode coming, I think, in about a week and a half on that one. George and I are at work right now on it. We've got Classic Chiller Films. We've got Spinner Rack Redux. I got a new episode on the way soon. I have it in mind. I just need to record it. Been busy lately. But, check us out next time as well. Come on back. We'd love to see you here. And, of course, in the meantime, stay weird.